Welcome back to Business Week Money Talks. Remember the golden age of radio? If not, it may be hard for you to imagine how much the introduction of radio transformed life. Hard to imagine, especially in view of the fact that we so easily take for granted our globally connected, instant-on news and information society today. Radio was the first light on as we move towards the electronic information age. Nostalgia, anyone?
I always wanted to be in the radio business, and when I was a kid, I used to talk in the back of vacuum cleaners, thinking pretending it was a microphone, thinking, well, maybe someday I could be a radio announcer. And I had a paper route, and one of my customers, a lady whose husband recently died, knew that I had an interest in radios and said, why don't you come up in the attic and see what old radios we have and take them home with you because I don't need them. And that's what started my radio collection. I've been collecting ever since.
Bill Baker is president of public broadcasting in New York City. He's had a long career as a television and radio executive on both the public and commercial sides. He also collects microphones and clocks, most of which were relics of stations he's worked at. Radios have a particular charm for Baker. Part of it is the content he remembers so well when radio ruled the entertainment and information world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Radio's Showcase Spotlight.
But mostly the collection is about the sets themselves, unique, elaborate, and often handcrafted works of technological art.
The oldest radio is a 1921 Kennedy. The Kennedy radio was a radio that was built in the experimental period before there were commercial radio stations, so this was 1921. And this thing has a lot of dials and knobs, and it was battery powered. And this is the oldest and the most valuable. By most valuable, no radios really have huge economic value. A really fine old radio might be worth as much as $2,000, but the average old radio you could get is probably under $100. The stand-up radio is a Zenith, and that old Zenith is one of the classics. And you turn the dial, and it starts spinning around. It's motor-driven dial to change from band to band.
There's been a surge in the prices for antique radios lately as the number of collectors has grown. Now, a lot of those collectors are, like Bill Baker, either a current or former broadcaster, but certainly not all of them.
There are those of us who collect the kind of very old radios that have some historical significance. Other people collect them because of their beauty and memories in the 1940s and 1950s. So I don't think you can classify radio collectors in any one particular way. Most of us do it out of love of the hobby and out of love of the medium, not so much because it's a collection that has any economic value.
Radio collectors compare notes on websites antiqueradio.com and AmericanRadioMuseum.org. There are also a number of radio clubs that the estimated 20,000 to 30,000 series collectors can join. The history of radio is, all things considered, very brief so far. So where is it headed? How about to outer space? Here's Gigi Stone with this week's developments to watch.
Satellite radio systems like Sirius and XM are part of a fast-growing market. And while the service has mostly been available in car stereo systems, now there's a new option for your home or office.
In addition to the 200 million cars on the road that we can address and the 16 million new cars that come out each year, that you've got 100 million households in the U.S., and we think satellite radio is a fantastic product in the home market.
Both services offer more than 100 channels of information and entertainment. The program lists are similar, but according to a Business Week review, Sirius has more variety when it comes to news, talk, and non-music entertainment. Sirius has an exclusive contract to broadcast NFL games next year. Plus, Sirius has no advertising. It costs $12.95 a month. XM, however, is cheaper, costing $9.99 per month. And now there's no easier way to get satellite radio than Kenwood's Home Tuner. It includes a 4-line LCD display that shows artist's name, song title, and program category. Additional features include a built-in program guide, parental lock, and remote control. But that's just for Sirius service. XM Radio offers a boombox for at-home use.
And technical support is available for the home unit from both the satellite company and the manufacturer. That's this week's developments to watch. I'm Business Week reporter Gigi Stone. Brad?
Thanks, Gigi. Coming up, we're going to be hearing more from radio aficionado Bill Baker. He's this week's leader of industry. But first, here's a look at the leading mutual fund sectors. Business Week Money Talks returns in a moment.
Developments to Watch is brought to you by Samsung.
It all starts with a chip that contains world-leading technology. Together with Samsung's superior engineering and design, it does so much more. It inspires. It enriches. It's the soul of Samsung, and it's in everything we create. Experience the power within. Samsung.
Welcome back to Business Week Money Talks here at the American Stock Exchange. This week's leader of industry heads up the most watched public television station in the United States, Channel 13, right here in New York City.
William Baker is on the national board of PBS as well as president and CEO of the Educational Broadcasting Corporation. Now, prior to assuming that position, he was president of Westinghouse Television, where he helped launch the Discovery Channel and the Disney Channel. And Baker even introduced Oprah Winfrey as a talk show host.
I recently spoke to the four-time Emmy Award winner about the state of the broadcast industry.
Well, I have an interest in the radio industry because I'm in public TV and radio, and I obviously follow the trends of the industry. The moves into satellite radio are interesting, but, you know, radio is going to be omnipresent. It's going to exist in one form or another, and it's what I say about television and what I say about radio. It's not so much really the instrument you use to receive the programs, it's the content, the kind of programming you put on in the first place. That's what really counts, and that's what ultimately really interests me.
How do you feel about the direction that the media industry is going today with the consolidation of ownership?
Well, in recent years, there's been a tremendous consolidation of the media in America, and I don't really think that's been a good thing. I think the early days of radio that my collection represents, when every radio station was owned by a different owner, and when in that town, when it rained, the owner got wet. Now, when it rains in most towns, the owner doesn't get wet because he's someplace else. He's in another city. So this consolidation of the media, I don't think has been a healthy thing, because I think media is so powerful. To have many different voices from different owners is important. So I have not been at all happy about what has happened in the consolidation of media. So that the government recently said, hey, let's hold back and slow down some of this consolidation, I think that is a good move.
Historically, there have been people calling for an end to government subsidy of public broadcasting. That storm may have been weathered, but what is the future for public broadcasting? Is it still viable and necessary?
Well, I mean, I think with what is happening in the commercial television world, there's never been a brighter future for public television and public radio, simply because we're doing the things that nobody else will do because they're not economical. Nobody will do a live broadcast of an opera or a ballet because you can't make money doing that. Public television will. Nobody will do these really detailed, heavily researched documentaries because they're so expensive to do. Public television will do that. And of course, our kids shows and the quality of them is not to be beaten. So I think there's more of a need ever than there ever has been for public broadcasting. So I'm not at all worried about its future.
How is Congress treating public broadcasting today?
Congress is always difficult, but so far, the really bad threats of a decade or so ago have, I'd say, eased off.
And what caused that to happen?
The American public rose up and eliminated a number of senators and congressmen that were against public broadcasting. The American public loves and believes in the concept of public broadcasting, and I don't think they're going to let it die.
That was Bill Baker, President and CEO of the Educational Broadcasting Corporation.
All right, well, in this week's Last Word, Madison Avenue will spend more money on next season's primetime television. Cable, however, will get most of the extra cash. The broadcast networks are expected to match last year's tally of $9.3 billion. That's going to do it for this week, but coming up next week, our annual retirement guide, how to make sure your retirement funds don't outlive you.
Plus, the secret danger of defective products. Startling news about the effectiveness of recalls.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
You've been watching Business Week Money Talks, the consumer news and finance program. We originate from New York's Wall Street at the American Stock Exchange.